So you had said you wanted to come back to a comment that I made around the research being convoluted by a kind of like lack of clarity as to exactly what drug is being microdosed. Because look, I get it. LSD, psilocybin, DMT, I think in some respect like mescaline, DOI, there's like all these ones. And yeah, there's like 5-HT2A receptor, but these are still very different drugs. And that's not even considering things where like ibogaine being microdosed, which is a totally
people
different
microdose
drug.
everything from cannabis to MDMA to, but let's stick to the psychedelics because
the classical psychedelics.
What we do know is that LSD is a really promiscuous drug. It binds to a lot of things in the brain, and psilocybin may be also binding to a kind of a few of the serotonin receptors, but then we have something like mescaline or DOI that only binds to a very few. So the differences in pharmacology between these drugs are just so big that it would be really strange to assume that they're going to do the same thing in the brain. Like what we're actually working on at the moment is also to trying to see what are the different effects of high doses of these drugs, and are there different measurements in the brain that are visible or measurable when you take mescaline versus LSD versus psilocybin, and we do see that they produce different effects in the brain. So they're trying to put all these things together and calling them psychedelics, and psychedelic microdosing is really also polluting the scientific literature in a way. We need to split it up into the different drugs in order to start to understand what's actually going on.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, as an observer, an outside observer of the science and the sort of like non-science culture, it reminds me of, now maybe I just misread it, but there are a number of times that I have read research suggesting that there's like no real difference between psilocybin and LSD when you look at it, like all the data from a subjective, and they're basically the same. And I'm like, I just cannot imagine any person who has had both say these are the same drug, these are the same experience, because they're just so radically different. And I think there needs to be a lot more specificity, and I think there's a lot of value in finding that specificity and identifying the specificity, because, you know, like a healthy forest, you don't just say trees and that determines a healthy forest, right? Like there's a lot going on, a lot of different trees, a lot of different supportive plants that you didn't even think were playing a role over here, which makes space
anybody
for something
who
else.
read Shulgin's book will know that there's differences between these drugs, right? We need more research on that way. And I think if we go 10 years or 20 years ahead, there will be, and if we are using these drugs in the clinic at that time, there will be a drug for depression, and there will be another drug for anxiety, and there will be another drug for those disorders where we may see a potential at the moment. I think we will start to branch out and see maybe LSD is better for anxiety and psilocybin is better for depression, or the other way around. But I think that's probably a pretty good assumption. Is there a case for mescaline at all, or is it just going to not be relevant? I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because you said 10 and 20 years we'll have a specific drug for this. My brain went like very futuristic, and I was like, in 10 to 20 years with AI and everything else, for all we know, we're going to have do androids dream of electric sheep, Philip K. Dick style of like the exact experience you want, just like perfectly dial that in. Like I want a 739 because that's going to give me exactly this, and none of this, and this, which is different from a 732 because that's this. And like,
science doesn't work that fast.
I went super nerdy about it in my mind. Maybe I admit I read probably more science fiction than science, but
but I think so that it is actually where the field is going with regards to DMT, right? Because the DMT experience is, you can't ingest it like you can with psilocybin and LSD. You have to have it injected, and the way it's going right now is that you can inject a little bit and then a little bit more and a little bit more, and then you can actually get to the level where you want people to get, and then you can have the effects that you're hoping to get. So maybe your future will be true with regards to DMT.
I mean, even with regards to DMT, we have the work from people like Chris Timmerman and the
Yeah.
extended state DMT, and it's not just like, you know, getting to the level, but you're also like getting to, you know, a desired or predetermined time in, no longer relying and no longer sort of like at the whim of your body's sort of like default metabolism of the thing in and out,
Yes.
injected, smoked, or otherwise, because of course outside of the research center, most people aren't injecting DMT. But yeah,
No,
so
I wouldn't recommend that.
yeah, no, I would imagine I'd be so surprised if you were like, I recommend people intravenously inject their DMT.
No,
Probably
no.
not. Just get a vaporizer.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that aside, I'm getting maybe a bit too silly here at the end. Yeah, there is I think there's an incredible future available to psychedelic medicine, with specificity, and I think with the appropriate caution around how we let sort of social biases manipulate what kind of what direction we take these drugs.